In last week's edition of this vlog series about building this sculpture, this chromosome-shaped DNA sculpture, I milled down a bunch of walnut and started learning how to make keys. Now for part 2, let's meet the other woods that will be featured. I ended up buying some new European steamed beech. So I have wood representing North America, the walnut that I've culled and harvested myself for the most part. And there's not a lot of wood that's a lot different in Europe than there is here, and there's not like a big market for European wood in America, so steamed beech is kind of one of the few that I was able to find that definitely grew there and came here that's nice and dense and hard. And I also like it because it's a lighter color. The other woods that I'm using are darker, so this will give some contrast and some depth of color to the overall piece. I hope it sounds good though. I don't think anyone's ever made marimba keys out of it. But what I'm most excited about is that even though I said I didn't have to work reclaimed on this project, I'm excited that this is the only wood that I had to buy that doesn't have like a greener history or a reclaimed history. Since Africa is where humanity seems to have started, I definitely wanted wood from there to represent that corner of humanity. And what I had on hand is this red mahogany that is out of the ship the Ernestina that my buddy Levi gave me some pieces of. So this is reclaimed wood from a schooner that used to be moored in West Africa. This wood is beautiful, but it's a real nightmare, as you can see, to get at. There's spikes every 18 inches, and there's knots, and it's thick, and there's not any straight edges on it because it used to be curved to a boat. It was a real project, but I really thought it was worth it to try and get some wood from it for this build, rather than buying something new. And I was lucky that I was able to get a few pieces that would work around the holes and the spikes and stuff that were in there. It was I wasn't sure if it was going to work. I've made a whole bunch of marimba keys now, experimenting with it. This one being the largest, and I'm just recording with this condenser mic right now, so you can't hear all the low frequencies, but it's tricky to make this sound without the resonator pipe that's underneath it. Then I've also made some little teeny tiny ones all the way up on the higher register like this. Love that. Which you can hear, but it's not very loud. And it really just kind of sounds like hitting a block of wood. There's a big noticeable difference in size as well. So what I'm zeroing in on now is just taking a chunk of them out of the middle. I think if I use the middle 3 octaves, I'm having my longest key at about 18 inches and my shortest one at about 10 inches. So there's still a pretty big difference. But what I'm going to do is, instead of trying to make the whole piano keyboard with the white keys and the black keys and all the half steps, I'm just going to do C major scale. So one side of the double helix will be the largest one, which is 19 inches down to the 9 inches, and then the other side has the wide ones on the bottom going up to the skinny ones on the top, so the distances remain the same all the way down. Now that I've zeroed in on that, I can go and I can cut my exterior sizes so they look correct, and then shape them out to make the right pitches out of each one, tune them all up, and that's good. For wood, I'm still planning on using the walnut, the steamed beech. Then I was thinking about, I found this, I don't know if I have enough and if I can get the thickness and the material that I need out here, but I have this ipe deck railing that's left over. I have about 8 feet of it. So I think I can make some out of this. I still have my African mahogany. This piece isn't going to help. I have this African mahogany. I'll probably have to go a little bit heavier on the walnut and the beech and lighter on the ones made from the ipe and the mahogany, but I can still do the same number of keys by just making more of the higher pitched notes out of the ipe and mahogany and more of the lower pitched notes out of the bigger ones. I can still end up with the same number of each type of wood. I just have to figure out the math on all that. I mean, how hard could it be? Originally, my buddy Luis Gonzalez was going to send up some mahogany from his region of Puerto Rico to represent sort of South America, even though it is north of the border. And I was really excited about that idea, but, well, he's busy, I'm impatient, and I was already using mahogany for another thing, so I was lucky that I found this ipe in my stock. I was like, oh, that's perfect. It's from further down in South America, and it's a beautiful wood. It's actually the best sounding keys in the whole marimba are coming out of this
piece of epay. So I was really excited about messing around with that mahogany, with the story of it being from this family's coffee plantation, but this stuff probably was a better fit for the build overall. After measuring and making so many keys and like learning how to cut them and tune them, if I were to do this again, I would do it way different. I would just I would just cut all my blocks and I would keep them much more uniform. I wouldn't micromanage the exterior sizes quite so much, and just then tune it later. I made a lot of extra work for myself, but that's kind of to be expected when you're learning. Now here I'm starting to mill down that African mahogany, and there's just no straight edges on this stuff, and I was hacking away at it, so this was a little bit time consuming to try and make something somewhat square. A lot of kind of back and forth between the table saw and the jointer and the planer. But eventually I got some blocks that were rectangular enough to turn into marimba keys. And I didn't have a lot to spare, because even though I have a lot of that wood, there's just, most of it has bolts in it. I just couldn't get a length and a square out to make a marimba key. This is some of the beech now. I never worked with this wood. It's pretty nice. It burns real easy because it's so light colored, but it smells nice.
About 5.5, so we can get 2 out of this.
This is the kind of micromanaging I was talking about, that I wouldn't take it quite so seriously next time. I would just cut them all and sort of sand it in without... I was trying to cut these blocks perfectly according to the numbers that I had, and that's just sort of ridiculous, it seems. I should have just cut them, and they would have become those numbers as I made them. So basically what makes these actually like musical instruments and not just blocks of woods is by cutting this arch out of the center of it. The more you cut away from the arch, the lower the note gets. And then the more you cut away from the ends, the higher the note gets. So that's sort of how you tune it, going back and forth on that. What I was doing was starting with the lowest one and getting it sort of close to the pitch I wanted it. And then I would put it on top of the next block, trace the arch, and then cut that same shape out of the next block, but I just stay on the other side of the pencil line, like leave the pencil line, and then tune it from there. And so that way I was taking out just a little bit less material, making the note just a little bit higher. And again, like I said, so much of this is just sort of winging it, and you get used to which pieces of wood, like some of them I would have to cut a little more out to get the lower notes, and other ones became lower faster. It was just a lot of just trial and error and going in and out, which is why now that I know that, I wouldn't have spent so much time on the prep work, cutting out the blanks. I would have just cut them out to shape and then spent the time here, which I had to do anyways. And here you can see all of them roughed out, but they haven't been tuned yet. They're all just basically close to the pitch that I want them to be. And there's still a lot more to do and think about from here.
This is another good spot to stop. At this point in the build, I've made a whole bunch of keys. I've gotten pretty good at figuring out how to measure them and cut them and size them. I've got them made out of all the different woods, but they're still not fine-tuned. And you'll notice I still don't have the actual double helix that these are all going to go into, that I need to make them fit into, which a smart person probably would have waited to have all the pieces of the puzzle before they started assembling, but, well, we'll see what happens as that goes. Again, in real life, I'm a little bit further along. I'm actually almost done in real life, and if you follow me on Instagram at TimSway1, in my stories I'm posting like daily updates in real time of basically this type of information as I go, and then this comes out a few weeks later, like the higher quality on YouTube. But so you can go check that out, and leave your comments below about anything you, comments and suggestions. Again, like I'm almost done, so it might be too late, but I would still love to hear your thoughts and your suggestions and ideas for future DNA-shaped marimbas that I may make. Hey, thanks a lot for watching, and be good.